God. Nine two nine 393 469. Okay. Good evening, Regan Tank. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Dr. Barb?
I'm just great. Thank you for being our guest speaker this week. We're talking about jobs, careers, internships in the travel and tourism industry. And you have had some experience in that area. So I wanted you to share just what it was like to find out about the industry, to work in the industry, and where you think it's going to take you from here. So tell us a little bit about how we in Mass Comm do internships and use internships.
Yeah, so I started looking at internship opportunities my sophomore year. That's when I found out that we had to have an internship to complete the program. And so I didn't know where to look, but first I looked at the K-State JMC page, and that's where I found out about a couple different internships, but in particular the Southwest Airlines internship. And that's when I started looking at the different qualifications that you need, experience needed, and I kind of decided that I needed to up my resume and I needed to get some experience. So I started getting involved in campus organizations and just building up my resume, and really in order to apply for those internships. So by the beginning of my junior year, I started applying for internships throughout the country, really. And that's kind of how I ended up going to Dallas the summer between my junior and senior year to intern with Southwest. And I think it's really beneficial that the school requires students to have internships, because practical real world experience is very important, especially in this industry.
One of the things that Regan will not tell you, but I'm going to tell you, is that there was very stiff competition for this particular internship. There were approximately 2,500 applications, and the cream always rises to the top. I just want you to remember that. And so we were delighted when she got this internship. It was also a paid internship, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah. Okay. So what did you learn about travel and tourism at Southwest Airlines?
Yeah, so that was my first internship experience, and I was just kind of thrown into this industry that I had didn't know much about, other than just traveling on their airline. So I got to see a lot of behind the scenes type stuff. I learned a lot about how the airline industry works and Southwest Airlines history in particular. And I just learned how much the travel and tourism industry influences our culture and our economy, and how important it is in overall economics of the United States. But from a communications standpoint, I got experience really working in internal communications. So I worked in the customer relations department, and within that department, they have a small communications team. And the big takeaway I got from that experience was that customer service, customer relations is PR. And it is very important, especially in the travel and tourism hospitality industry. If you can kind of differentiate yourself or your product by giving and promoting yourself as like a customer service oriented company, then you can really stand out from the rest of the competition.
And I would say, gauging by the way the airline industry is going today, and some of the stories that we hear all of the horror stories all of the time about what's going on, about sending a dog to Japan instead of to Kansas City, or dragging people off planes, or not giving people information when there's situations that, whether they're caused by weather or circumstances that are beyond somebody's control. The customer service part of it is really what sets Southwest Airlines apart, because Southwest has one of the highest satisfaction ratings from its.
Right. Yeah. And that's why it was one of the biggest takeaways for me. Something cool that they do is all of their customer relations representatives go through, I can't remember how long their training was, but a couple months, I think, of training. And something that differentiates them from other airlines is that they let their customer relations representatives decide what kind of compensation they want to give somebody. So, like, let's say I flew on a Southwest flight and the flight was delayed and I lost my bags and the flight attendant spilled a drink on me, let's say, and I reached out to Southwest. Then the person who receives my inquiry can say, you know what, like, this was a really bad experience for Reghan. We've seen that she's flown with us 4 times the last year, and we're going to give her $50 credit for her next flight, getting me to come back again, and give her like a free drink coupon or something. But they let their representatives determine the types of compensation, which I think just makes it really personalized and really unique for every customer.
So then really every Southwest Airlines employee is the face of the company and does public relations, carries out the public relations mission of Southwest.
Definitely.
I found that too when I've flown with them. So what happened after you finished your internship with Southwest Airlines, came back to school and you graduated, and then what happened?
Yeah, so I was actually planning on going back to Southwest. I don't know if you knew that, but I had also planned a 3-week trip abroad to Europe right after graduation. And so I was in touch with the HR people at Southwest, and they basically told me that I was ineligible to come back if I missed the first 3 weeks of the internship. So for me at that point, I kind of saw it, as a sign to look elsewhere and to look for other opportunities. And at the same time, I was also thinking about where I wanted to end up after graduation as far as the location. And for me, Dallas wasn't on the top of my list. And a lot of jobs at Southwest are in Dallas because that's where their headquarters are. And so I, started thinking about living in a big city and didn't know if that was necessarily what I wanted. And I had a friend who told me about the National Park Service and that they hire a lot of people for the summer and internships and seasonal jobs. So that's really where I started looking. I started just searching online for jobs in the National Park Service, and an internship at Rocky Mountain National Park came up, and it was like a community relations, public relations, event planning sort of role. And I applied and got it, and that's where I went right after graduation.
What were some of the things that you did there at Rocky Mountain National Park?
Mm-hmm. So the first summer I was there, I was writing blog posts about their volunteer program. I was interviewing volunteers, taking photographs. I also got to post them onto the official park website. So I was learning some HTML coding type stuff, not a lot, and their CMS programming. And just really the whole time learning all about the Park Service because it was a brand new deal to me. I didn't really know much about it or how it worked, how they hired people, that sort of thing. So just really getting my feet wet as far as learning how the Park Service operates and really how they work with tourists and how they're a big part of the tourism industry in the United States.
Where does Rocky Mountain National Park rank? It's fairly highly ranked because of the number of visitors that it has.
Right. So I think last year it was the 4th most visited national park in the country. Wow. At 4.5 million visitors, something like that.
That's a lot of people to take care of.
It is.
Okay. Now today, fast forward, you are a graduate student here in our journalism and mass communication master's program. Tell us how you got here and what you're doing with that now.
Yeah. So I guess fast forward, I graduated in May of 2015 and actually had, 4 internships in like the year and a half after I graduated. So I kind of bopped around to a couple different places in Colorado, had some different experiences, and I decided that pursuing higher education was beneficial for me, especially working in the Park Service. They like to hire people who have master's degrees. It gives you just more opportunities as far as full-time, year-round positions go. So I kept in touch with Dr. Barb, and she had told me about the master's program and different research opportunities I could have at K-State and how it would really help me in my career pursuit. And so I'm back. I'm almost done with my first year. And right now what I'm looking at studying is community relations and national parks, how those surrounding communities for parks work together to communicate about different issues. So whether that's promoting the park, promoting visitation, or educating visitors, and just how looking at the similarities and differences between how those different organizations communicate.
Very good. So this summer now, you're planning an independent study that's going to lead into your master's project, where you're going to go look at those kinds of things. And one of the things that I think you're interested in is how do the natives, the people who live there all the time, view those visitors who come?
Right.
And if they understand how much of an impact they have on their lives. I think maybe in Colorado they do because they've relied on visitors for such a long time. But I wonder sometimes if people really understand that all of these people coming in who drive on your roads and eat at your restaurants and buy things in your stores, how much they contribute to your community and understanding who you are. And
right.
Those are some of the things that you're looking at right now. So when you're finished and you've got your project completed, which is going to come faster than you think because a master's program is 2 years, where do you hope this takes you?
So my ultimate goal is to work as a public affairs officer for the National Park Service. Those jobs are few and far between because when people get them, they tend to stay in them until they retire. So that's my goal. I'm hoping that after I graduate, I could maybe start out as a seasonal employee. So that just means working usually in the summer season for about 6 months, working in some form of communications, public affairs, or community relations role with the Park Service.
There might also be some opportunities with the Colorado state government or some of the local entities, like some of the counties sometimes, some of the cities, each have their own public affairs officers too, because it's such a big job to be able to handle all those. And one of the things people don't realize is how many jobs there actually are in the US government at all different levels, from local level up through the federal level, that do not involve politics. in the
Right.
sense that you don't have to be a Democrat or a Republican or an independent or any of those kinds of things. You're considered a federal or state service employee.
Hmm.
And can you talk a little bit about that when you first started that at your job in Colorado, how you learned about that?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, I would have, if you would have asked me at like when I was a senior in college, if I were to be working as a federal employee, I would have been so confused. I had no idea what types of jobs were out there. And like you said, even with state government or local county government, doesn't involve politics at all, or I guess your conventional meaning of politics. So there are a lot of jobs out there, and you just have to know where to look or know somebody who can kind of give you a direction of where to look. Um, but yeah, there are so many different jobs, especially in a communications role in the tourism industry, and you just kind of have to keep an open mind as far as where you want to go and where you're looking to really make an impact.
And I think one of the things you realize now, Reghan, and I think that a lot of our students are beginning to understand as they look at the jobs that I've posted, is job titles vary dramatically, whether it says public affairs, whether it says internal communicator, whether it says media relations, which identifies one segment of the work that you do, all of those kinds of things. And it's because public relations can adapt itself. It's very flexible given the environment that it works in, depending on the regulations and what the expectations are and the experience of people who have worked with communicators. And I think that that's one of the things that we as educators have to make sure that you have an understanding of, or that we can point you in different directions to go so that you know where to look for them. Because if you were just going to look for a public relations communication job, you would find some. But the duties may be entirely different, and they may be in very different places.
Right. Yeah. And just knowing which terms to search for. Yeah. Because if you just search for like public relations specialist, you'll miss out on public affairs jobs or media relations or content creation positions, which are all very applicable to what you study in school.
Same thing as with advertising also, whether you're an advertising account executive or whether you're an advertising creative, those are a little more well-established terms in an agency. But outside of an agency, you would hire somebody maybe in content creation who was in advertising, or somebody who has a visual background, who's got the photographic and the visual skills that go with it.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, Reghan, from working with me, and I think the students are beginning to really understand, my strength has always been on the writing side. And so now learning how to do video and learning how to incorporate video is very exciting for me. And I'm right now working on a series of public relations vignettes, you might call them, or mini lessons that are video based that you could play in a classroom, rather than just reading them in a book, so that you get a sense of what the history is and how it developed into what it is today. And it's very challenging, but nobody's done it. And I would really like to just give it a try and to see, because so many people are visual learners.
Right.
And so as I become more comfortable with this, now I'm starting to think in terms of, okay, how can I do this? How can I do that? And so that's one of the great things I think about a career in any communication field, is there's just so much to learn.
Totally. And being a student is the perfect excuse or opportunity to really learn different things, because once you're in a role and you kind of have those specified duties and job responsibilities, it'll be harder to kind of step out of the box and learn new experiences, I guess. But as a student and in internships, you can say, hey, like, I want to have experience creating videos or doing graphic design. And that'll give you a lot of practical experience and to kind of differentiate yourself from everyone else. with
And
a
isn't it interesting? At least I found this in my life, and I think you maybe found this in your life too, Reagan. Keeping an open mind and meeting as many people as you possibly can, because you never know where those connections are going to show up. It's just, yeah, I would have never in a million years chosen Costa Rica as a place that I was going to go. But now I have so many ties to Costa Rica with Harold and the University of Costa Rica and all of those places, and with you and the group of students, the 2 years that I took students down there for January tourism class. It's very special, very, very special, and I loved Costa Rica, and I'm going back. I'm going back this summer to do a case study down there. And but it's I think one of the things is keeping that open mind and just hearing what other people have to say and look at what they are doing just opens up so many possibilities to you too.
Right. And you bring a good point, because at least when I was a student, I always thought that networking meant like you were kind of schmoozing or being a brown noser or you were just being kind of fake. But I think really in our industry, it means building relationships with people and keeping those ties strong. And you never know what kinds of opportunities might come your way because of it. It's not necessarily like pushing people or asking them to give you a job, but it's more like, hey, look, these are my skills. This is what I'm interested in. My work ethic, what I've done in a professional setting. And if you hear or see of opportunities that I might be a good fit for, let me know. And I think that's something that I didn't realize when I was a student. I was always afraid to like network or go to networking events because I didn't want people to think that I was just trying to get a job from them. But really it's more of just like building a relationship with someone, and you never know where those professional ties can take you.
And the thing that I think is really important too is that as a student, a lot of times students think, I don't have anything to offer anybody. But you do. If you think about the people that you know, from your parents' friends, people in the working world, all of those kinds of things, something you read or something like that, where you can start a conversation with somebody and show them that you're in tune with what's going on, that you're up to date with what's going on. That's what people want to see. Those are the kinds of people you want to build relationships with. And when we talk about building relationships, that's such a ill-defined term again, because like you say, some people think it's like, oh, I have to schmooze, or I have to be nice to people, or well, you do in a certain sense. I mean, you can't be a jerk all the time, but finding where your common ground is.
Yes.
Though some of those are the kinds of things, sending a thank you note to somebody afterwards. I just had a wonderful experience. In fact, it's right here on my desk. 25 years ago, I had a young man in class when I was a brand new teacher, brand new professor. And he sat in the front row in Principles of Public Relations. And he sent me a card because he came across my name. He is now a public relations professor in North Dakota. He has his PhD. And he said, I don't know if you remember me. I certainly do. I certainly do. 25 years later, we're going to pick up like we never left off. That's what building a relationship is all about. It just, being able to stay in touch with people and knowing where those connections are. And what things work with people. And that's the beauty of what I do, is that I have all those students out there that I hear from, and it's great. I love it.
Yeah.
So what would you say, parting question, what would you say if some of our students were thinking about graduate school?
Ooh. My advice would be I honestly never thought I would be back getting my master's. I really didn't. I didn't think I wanted to pursue any more schooling. Never thought I would be back at K-State. But keep an open mind, keep in touch with professors like Dr. Barb, or Deb Skidmore was one for me too, who I kept in touch with. And really think about how it could affect your career and how it can help you. There are a lot of programs out there that are designed to be pretty flexible and pretty open, and they don't make you, I guess they don't force you to like choose something that you don't want to research or you don't want to study. There are a lot of different programs out there, and K-State is one of them, that allows you to be pretty flexible and keep an open mind as far as what's going to help you in your career, and be really personalized to what you want to get out of it. And graduate school is different than undergraduate school, obviously, or getting your bachelor's degree, but it's in a good way. It really expands your mind and helps you look at things from a different viewpoint, and yeah, just expands your knowledge and gives you a really good framework to build upon, I guess, for your career.
And I'm glad you said that. You realize that we want you as a student to tell us where you want to be at the end of it, and how can we help you get there? What do you think you need? And then we can work with you to get that, to get you where you want to be, because that's how we're successful. And it is your degree, not my degree. And so what you look for in a graduate program is what I call the fit. Do I fit here? Is this where I should be? How much responsibility can I take for myself and show people that I want to do this and this? And that's where the fit comes in, because I look for people who have ideas and want to pursue those ideas and want some guidance. I see myself as much more of a coach than I do as anything else. I'm trying to help you figure out, let's go from here to here, and here are the experiences that I've had that I can help you with, and how it fits into the framework of what we have as a graduate degree.
Right. Yep.
And the fact that we're putting a lot of things online, I'm very excited about that too. So,
yeah, me too.
There you go. And see, now when you're the public affairs officer for all of the parks in Colorado, I'm going to be calling on you to speak to future students.
Okay.
And so remember this conversation, Reghan.
Okay, I'll mark it. I'll mark it on the calendar.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Bye now.
Bye.